We heard a lot from Stephanie White after she first got the Indiana Fever job, and obviously we hear from her on NBA telecast and the like. But considering this long WNBA offseason, it's not as if, these interviews are coming out fast and furious or there's as much contact with the players as one would hope for. That's why when there was a little highlight tape of Caitlin Clark or a workout tape with her in the lab with Stephanie White, it blew up right away. But the coach has spoken again. She appeared on the IHSAA Insider show. And of course, I will link the full show in the description, and talked about her current team and her unique perspective on said current team, considering one, she went against them as head coach of the Connecticut Sun, obviously, including in the playoffs, including in Caitlin Clark's first WNBA game. And she also followed some of these players for a long time, considering she covered the college game. And therefore, she has such a unique perspective given her innate knowledge and insight to her players, and also the fact that they're now her players, which is interesting to hear when it's presented. Here was one clip from the show in regards to being a mentor for Caitlin Clark.
Forward to, when you think about Caitlin Clark and a generational talent, and the sometimes overlooked Kelsey Mitchell, who's been like one of the hardest workers that I've ever seen.
Sometimes overlooked Kelsey Mitchell, just pausing it right there because I think those words might have been chosen intentionally, given the free agent status of the player that the Fever just cored.
From the time I was covering her at Big Ten Network, watching her at Ohio State. And then Aaliyah Boston, who, prior to Caitlin Clark coming on the scene, was another generational talent and is, right? Like, so it's like you think about the pieces that we have and putting that all together. I hope, number one, for Caitlin, that I can be a resource. I didn't have the same stuff that she has on a global scale. Thankfully we didn't have social media at the time, which amplifies everything. But I've been through it on a smaller scale, and so hopefully I can help her navigate some of the extra stuff, while pushing her to be her best and challenging her to step outside of her comfort zone on the floor. I have the advantage of I was an opponent, right? And so scouting her and this is what we try to do to make you uncomfortable. This is how we game planned for you. And again, being that straight shooter, like, okay, like these are the areas that we need to improve. And putting those pieces together while also thinking about the holistic version of this team that we have, who is incredibly gifted on the offensive end of the floor. Offense is what I love. And so being able, trying to think about all these things that we can do. And heck, we had a staff meeting a couple of weeks ago in Indy, and it was like, guys, we got to scale it back. We're not going to be able to do all of this in year one. We're not going to be able to do all of this in training camp. Like, we're going to be able to, so staying ahead of the curve and watching all of these, NBA games and EuroLeague games and thinking about the things that we can do is really exciting to me.
How can you not be excited about the Fever future hearing that coach speak, which wasn't coach speak? Stephanie White is clearly a great basketball mind and clearly has a way of connecting with people and players. I mean, it's just, is it May? That's the kind of feeling I think it's gonna be May. You have when you hear her speak in that regard. And that wasn't the only thing she said. She also talked about containing Caitlin Clark. And of course, this is like obvious, but it was still interesting.
Listen, Kel, I'm just going to say this. We had a lot more defensive weapons at our disposal. So, and it's, I don't know how any college team really can prepare for a Caitlin Clark, because you can't do it with one person, and you can't do it one-on-one, right? Like it is a whole 5-man team effort. So let me just preface all that before you go with it.
Jane, let me tell you. So this is crazy. So it's the end of, I don't know, maybe a quarter or half. I'm not sure which, but we were going to take a foul on her, right? And so Caitlin Clark brings it over, and she brings it over close to where Katie Gerald's is, and we were going to tell Jayla Smith to foul. And so he said, "I'll tell you when." And so you can see Caitlin like hear that.
Yeah.
Now, Jayla Smith goes to foul. She throws it up.
Yep.
Turns around. It goes in.
Yep.
It freaking goes in.
Yep.
And she didn't even see it. And then she starts going, and one. I'm like, oh my God. Like, so whatever you're scheming, whatever you're thinking you're going to try, like, I mean, we all just did our best, right?
Yeah,
We just did the best we could. And at the end of the day, it was what it was. But, you know, somebody like that, you know, everybody has to kind of cross their fingers and kind of throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks with her. And but it was pretty cool to experience Mackey Arena and Caitlin Clark at the same time. I mean, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the
some good clips there from the show, as you can see, and it's nice. It's nice when you hear people within basketball just enthused about talking about Caitlin Clark, just because they should be, right? And the other person there was Kelly Komara, Purdue women's basketball associate head coach. So that's the kind of thing, like, people within the game, you want to hear them talk like that. You want to have that excitement. You should feel that excitement. And I know plenty have expressed it, but there have been so much resistance that it's odd and it's blown my mind, and obviously a lot of other people's. So it's refreshing, I guess, when you hear it. And Stephanie White's perspective is so refreshing because not only does she have the long-term perspective, but she was the opponent. She was the ops just last season against a team that did better than really anybody else going against Caitlin Clark. Part of that was personnel, as she mentioned. When you got DeWanna Bonner and you have Alyssa Thomas and you have Dejanay Carrington, you're much more equipped for defending anybody, right? Like, that was the DNA of the Connecticut Sun. So I think the hope is that Stephanie White can bring some of that DNA over to the Fever, and they're going to have to, you know, like, some of defense's effort, some of it is personnel. So they may have to make some personnel moves in order for that to fully come to fruition. But then you can just see the light bulbs going off in her head and the excitement about what she's got at her disposal offensively. Because she went from, you know, an effective sort of SUV kind of vehicle that maybe had too many miles on it to a Ferrari. Now you maybe you want to turn that Ferrari into the Batmobile, right? Like, some of that defensive stuff around it, the other stuff around it. But you can tell she is excited about the prospects of what she can do with the personnel that she does have to light up the WNBA.